Welcome to Stack of Stats. I am your host, Pamela Maldonado, bringing you all the analytics behind the bets. I am joined today by DFS Analyst for TourJunkies.com, my golf partner in crime, Anthony Charter, and we are here to preview the PGA Championship at the Ocean Course at Kiawah Island in South Carolina. This is the second major of the year. So, Charter, how excited are you for a big-time tournament this week?
Major season, let's go.
Absolutely. It is a lot of fun. We had our last major, which was the Masters, and now we move over to the PGA Championship. But before we preview this week, let's talk about last week. Neither of us did well. We did something that is so rare to do, and it is a reverse sweep. Neither of us got a single thing correct. But listen, I did say, I hate this week. I'm not betting anything. This is for content purposes. Last week was hella hard.
Yeah. Nobody did anything last week.
Yeah.
I mean, like barely anyone had cagely. I mean, why would you tout someone that was so far along anyway? You know, like those are just complete darts. And when the score is going to be minus 25 on a new brand new course.
Exactly.
Like it doesn't matter. I literally could care less about losing, $100 last week. I mean, we both were on Spieth. A fifth of my allowance was going to be on Spieth. We found out he had COVID.
Turned out it didn't matter at all.
I still think it's an easy fade because, like, what happens if we find out he has COVID and then we were like, F COVID, and we play him and then he misses the cut and we're like, oh, well,
we should have kept
he had COVID. What?
Exactly. And the players that I chose, they all did well. I mean, Bryson DeChambeau, I pegged him to have a big week, and he did exceptionally well. He took tied for 55th, shooting 10 under. Like we said, the winner was 25 under. In a tournament like that, it's just really hard to navigate who's going to be the lucky guy who just goes balls to the wall from all 4 days and shoot 25 under. It's really hard to do that on the PGA Tour. But also, who is going to be honest with you about their record? We went over, I don't know how much. We definitely will be honest. This is exactly why I do post the Excel sheet. And what did you assess? But I mean, yes, last week was hard to kind of like try to figure out and analyze. But is there anything to kind of to assess from that week? Can we take away? Is there any takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be very careful with the week before major anyway, because like the priority is obviously is on making sure your game is geared up. Some guys choose just to play some shots. I mean, Brooks specifically went there just to see if he could play 4 rounds. And, obviously he didn't, but he said he felt really good.
Both Matthew Fitzpatrick and Brooks Koepka missed the cut, and then Scotty Scheffler, somebody else I had pegged doing well. He shot 11 under. In a normal tournament, that's going to be okay. Instead, he finished tied for 47th. It was definitely a tough tournament to handicap. Really difficult to predict who can shoot 25 under like Keon Hoonley. But enough of that. Enough of last week. Let's move on over to this week. And looking at the field for the PGA Championship, it's no surprise to see Rory Mcilroy entered this week as the plus 1,200 favorite. If you do recall, he actually won the Wells Fargo Championship just 2 weeks ago. And then rounding out the top 5 betting favorites, you have Jon Rahm, Justin Thomas, Bryson DeChambeau, and Jordan Spieth. Spieth. We talked about him last week. Of course, it's a big play for us at the start of the show. By the end of the show, you read it loud in an interview that he stated that he had COVID after the Masters. It didn't matter as a result. We took him off our cards, and then he finished, T9th. He took 9th place last week in Dallas. So a new rule for the show: no more reading interviews during the recording. These are going to be situations
it wouldn't have mattered.
Right.
I still would have hopped off immediately after. I mean, you can't. I mean, the guy literally said he hadn't picked up a club for 2 weeks.
So, yeah.
And he played half a round with his dad at the course before.
Yep. And Koepka, I did mention that he missed the cut last week. He has not missed a cut in 8 attempts at the PGA Championship. So he missed the cut last week. Do you think he can bounce back this week?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even say it's a bounce back. Like, this is totally different. I mean, 2 days extra of rest is awesome,
right,
as well. But I mean, like just watching like his swings and stuff on Instagram and on the range, like everything looks good. He had his interview earlier today and said he feels, he's able to hit all the shots. You know, like he's walking fine. He said one of the hardest things at the Masters, because it was so hilly, was finding out what paths he had to take, you know, because he
Right.
couldn't go up and down a hill a certain way. He doesn't
Yeah.
have to worry about that here.
Right.
You know, obviously the Masters was a month ago.
And he did well
So
last week. It was just that everyone else did exceptionally well. So it's not like he did a poor job.
yeah.
It's just knocking off a little bit of rust. But looking at the course, it is the Ocean Course at Kiawah Island Golf Resort. It is a par 72. And get this, it is 7,800 yards. It is the longest major championship venue in history. It is over 7,800 yards. But Kiawah did play host to the PGA Championship in 2012. And it is 200 yards longer now than it was back then. It is also a coastal course because it is in South Carolina. It is set alongside the Atlantic Ocean, bringing wind in as a factor. So tell me, Charter, I always refer to you to explain the green situation because that seems to be where you really excel at. That's like your knowledge base. This course is Paspalum greens. We don't
Oh
see
my
this
God,
too
you
often.
said
I
it
did said
right
it correctly.
too.
And you know why?
You
Because I
studied too, didn't you?
Google how to pronounce Paspalum greens.
Oh man,
Perfect. It
I'm
was awesome.
disappointed. I thought you were gonna butcher it, and it was gonna be amazing. We can't add that to the Pam
To the
bloopers.
bloopers. But this is Paspalum greens,
Ah.
and this is something that we don't see too often. So how does this come into effect this week?
Yeah, we usually only see it like 3 times a year. The Corrales has these greens,
Mm-hmm.
the Puerto Rico event has these greens, and the OHL Mayakalba at El Chameleon in Mexico has these types of grass. We had DB and Pat had Kyle Peters, who's a regular PGA Tour caddy, on their podcast last night, and he's on the grounds and was kind of explaining some things. Paspalum, like sort of like bent, you don't really need. There's no grain. You don't need to worry about that. And these are supposedly the best Paspalum greens on tour. Period. That can be found anywhere.
So easy or difficult to putt on?
Easier for sure. Like, I mean, obviously they won't be slow, they'll be firm and fast, but the Paspalum greens tend to like grip the ball a little bit better, like especially like in the fairways and stuff. So a lot of pure roll.
Perfect.
You'll just be looking at the slope. You don't have to worry about which way the sun's going, which way the grain is rolling. It's just going to be, and they're very firm, very fast, very large, and very flat.
Wonderful. So that being said, then which set of data points are you looking to utilize for this week? You and I do things very differently. You use very much like model based, and I'm gonna tell you what I did, but I would definitely want to know what stats you're looking at.
Around the green is definitely going to be important. I mean, you're always going to want to have putting. I believe like 3-putt avoidance especially is going to be monstrously huge because you really need to be avoiding bogeys. Like I would weight bogey avoidance over birdies, so much more. Like I didn't even put birdies in my model because you generally, who's making birdies and who's not. At a course like this, when the winning score might be -10, you bogey avoidance is so much more important. But around the greens, because they've raised so many of these greens. This is a Pete Dye track, so it's gonna have all the regular Pete Dye stuff. Weapons off the tee, need to be in position, need to be a placement. The fairways are pretty wide, but there's a lot of runoffs. There's not officially any bunkers, but there are 30 acres of sand on this course. There's water and sand is everywhere, so you really length is definitely going to be valuable off the tee, but I would prefer if I lost a few yards from a player if they were in good position and finding the fairways. But one thing Alice Dye said to Pete when they were designing this course was, it's called the Ocean Course, but you can't see the ocean. So they raised a bunch of the holes and a bunch of the tee boxes and stuff so you could see the ocean, which made all of the greens have like some very steep and deadly runoffs. Most of the greens are on top of a bowl type thing.
So if you miss the green, good luck. Or if your ball rolls off the green, good luck.
Yeah, you're gonna be.
That's where you're gonna get some of the challenges.
Huge.
Absolutely.
Scrambling and around the green.
Scrambling and around the green. Those are some of the data points that I also use as well. You're doing things a little bit differently this week. There are 8 players that you are looking to target. One of those players you're not doing instead top 20s. What you are doing is top 8 each way. Can you explain what that means?
Well, yeah. So the sportsbook that I use, I'm in Canada, so we generally have access to a lot of different sportsbooks, and a lot of them offer each way bets, meaning, I mean, on a typical week, you say you bet $20 on, JT to win. Well, $20 goes towards his outright odds, say like this week about 10-1, and then you generally get 1/4 of the odds for a top 5 finish at the same bet. So, the bet would actually be $40, $20 towards the outright number, and then $20 towards this top 5 number.
So if he if he wins and finishes of course he'll finish in the top 5, then you get paid for both. However, if he does not win but finishes in the top 5, then you get paid for that portion.
Yeah, you get paid 1/4 of the odds so 2.5 to 1 at 1/4.
And then of course if neither hit, well then it's just a normal loss.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the majors, they always extend the top 5 each way to a top 8 each way.
Okay.
And you get 1/5 of the odds.
So same concept, win or finish in the top 8.
Yeah.
Don't win, finish in the top 8, or neither happens.
Right.
For 1/5 of the odds.
Yeah.
Or both if it hits. Okay.
That's right.
Then that's what I want to hear. Then the players that you are looking to target is 8. Let's run off the first one off the board. It is Justin Thomas. You were just talking about him. So what are his odds for top 8 each way?
10-1 for JT.
Okay. Well, then tell me why you like him for this week. He doesn't really need too much of an introduction, but of course,
I'm not going to spend much time. It's Justin Thomas. He's number 2 in the world. He can easily be number 1 in the world. I mean, I'm fading DJ completely. I don't think his game is on point for that. I'm not exactly sure where the breakdown is, but Justin Thomas definitely has his eye on number 1 this week, and I don't think there is a better player on the PGA Tour right now that is set up for this as well as Justin Thomas is.
His only struggle as of late has been losing strokes off around putting. At the Valspar Championship, he lost 6 strokes putting, but then he really gained some back and he lost just 1 at the Wells Fargo Championship. So yes, he is great off the tee. He is great on strokes gained on the approach. His around the green is solid every tournament, and it's just his putting. If he can put his putting together, golden.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much going to be a theme for all of my players this week. Their only lacking is generally around the green and putting. And I mean, like JT's phenomenal around the green. I'm not worried about him, but a couple of the other guys.
Thomas has never missed the cut in a PGA Championship, so we'll be looking at him to do the same here. And then the next player you're looking at is Will Zalatoris. Of course, the Will Zalatoris show. He is here every week. We talk about him. Great off the tee. He is great on his approach. His ball striking is there, and he is the same thing, missing strokes on his putting. He lost 2 strokes at Wells Fargo Championship. He lost 4 strokes at AT&T Byron Nelson, but great iron shot player. What else is there to like?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I wanted to bring up was Willie Z is his former instructor and golf mentor is David Price. David Price has been connected to the PGA Tour for, dozens of years, or not specifically the PGA Tour, but the PGA of America. So like all of the Ryder Cups and the PGA Championship. He's been instrumental in a lot of those things. And in Willie Z's interview this week, he was talking about how many stories David shared with him about this event. David over the years has walked tons of different PGA championships in the final group, and, just shared a whole bunch of stories, specifically like Rory's win here in 2012. So I think, this is going to be Willie Z's first PGA championship, but he says he knows more about this event than all of the other ones, specifically from sharing stories with David Price. So I think that's
knowing about this event is one thing. Being able to execute once you're actually there is another. But he's shown time and time again that he has the ability to do so. How many tournaments has he played this season where it's been his first time there and he finishes in the top 20, sometimes in the top 10?
He's got 25 top 25s. in, what, like 27 events or something,
including
26
second at the
events.
Masters, which is the last major that we had in April. So
Yeah.
his ability is definitely there. I agree.
Yeah, Willie Z's number is 56-1, which I thought was really great.
I have a 6,600-1 that I got in January. So
yes, but without the top 5 each way, the numbers would be a lot bigger. Like we lose a lot of value with the top 8 each way, but it gives you that. But I did actually fire Willie Z top 20 at plus 262 early on.
Okay, so you're
just
doing
in case
8.
I wasn't sure what I was going to get to him at, and I didn't know if I wanted to fire it outright, so I bet the top 20. Just to have that. I think. I mean, this is going to be a tall order. The Masters field is. Yeah, the Masters field is one thing, but there's only really like 65 guys who are generally going to compete, and maybe 2/3 of those are really have win equity.
Right.
At a PGA Championship, that changes quite drastically. I mean, there's 156 players in the field. You can knock off about 30 or so from sponsor exemptions and different tour exemptions, and then obviously the 20 PGA Professional of America pros who make it into this field. Even then, you probably still have 100 guys who have decent win equity. So
yeah, who can finish in the top 10, which a few of those players you have pegging to do well are going to be Paul Casey and Corey Connors. I want to talk about them both. Corey Connors, I mean, what else can we say about him? He is excellent off the tee. He is excellent in strokes gained on the approach. His ball striking is phenomenal. I would say he's definitely the number one player in strokes gained in ball striking right now. Yeah. His only problem is around the green. However, his stats, I mean, his finishes are still doing well. He took 3rd at Arnold Palmer. He took 7th at the Players. He took 8th at the Masters and 4th at RBC Heritage. Last couple of weeks, he has dropped off just a little bit. He took 21st at the Valspar and 43rd at Wells Fargo. But
I think that was more of a break, though.
Yeah.
Like, he played so many events in a row. I was so happy to see him take last week off to gear up for this event. So I mean, I think I was going to be on it anyway, but that's another reason why I'm.
And you also like Paul Casey, who is a player who can definitely contend here because of that European experience. But he took 8th at American Express. He took 5th at AT&T Pebble Beach. He took 5th at the Players Championship. He did miss the cut at RBC Heritage. And where his problem has been lacking is he is a little bit off and on off the tee. He either gains strokes or he loses strokes, depending on which course. But consistently, he is losing strokes off his putter. But talk a little bit about these players. What numbers do you have in your model that has you eyeing both of them?
I mean, Corey Connors is first in greens and regulation. Love that. He's first in good drives gained, which means whether a drive makes the fairway or not on Fantasy National, they end up with the green regulation. Number 1. Number 2, in fairways gained. Like, Corey Connors' swing is just so amazingly good. He probably has the best swing in golf right now. It used to always be Adam Scott. I'm more leaning like Corey Connors' swing just looks like he has no effort and just bombs it down the middle of the fairway every single time.
The muscle memory is there, and it is beautiful.
Yeah, it's so calm and so relaxed. I just love it. So yeah, I mean, he's number 2 on my model, and I even went a little bit weaker on the ball striking numbers to emphasize around the green and some putting and stuff. But I mean, his putting's coming along great too, and the pass one should kind of neutralize some of his putting woes as well too. So I have a hard time hopping off Connors this week. And Casey's very similar. The tee to green game is so good, but one of Casey's strong suits is the 200 plus yard shots are better. Like, he's second in the field in proximity for the last 6 months. There's just there's only one player better than him in those long iron shots. And from interviews today, like even John Rahm said from 14 to 18 in his practice round yesterday, he didn't have anything less than a 5-iron the whole way through. Like, there's some long holes, and they added so many new tee boxes that
Right.
this could push well over 8,000 yards a couple of the days. They've said they're going to change the tee boxes every single day.
Especially if it is windy, then you are going to see the length of the course get even longer. So it's going to make for an interesting 4 days. But there is one player that you have on your list that I am less familiar with, and his name is Matt Wallace. But looking at his, he's in the green. If you look at his stats, he has green off the tee, green on straight skin on the approach, green around the green. He's the only player that you have who has a really good around the green game, and his putting is kind of really basically there. He's like his worst has been minus 0.73, so he's definitely there. He took 6 at Wells Fargo Championship on early May, and then he took what's another one? He took third at the Valero Texas Open, so he does have a couple of good finishes. But statistically, what are you looking at that has you eyeing him?
Well, I mean, I've been on Matt Wallace for probably like 6 weeks or so, especially on DraftKings. His ownership's generally been so low. He just kind of does everything pretty decent. But one thing I really liked when I loaded up a model that was like difficult scoring and long courses, he popped in that as well. And you know, so many times that I've wrote up a guy 1 week, and then he didn't perform so well, and then I was like, I probably won't go back this week, and then they just do really well. So it's the same thing with the Euros. I'm going with Matt Fitzpatrick and Matthew Wallace. I just they're both playing so good and they have so much potential. Right. I'm not going to hop off right now. Matt Fitzpatrick's best weapon is his putter, and last week he lost 2.5 strokes putting, on a different kind of greens that just didn't work with him. That's going to happen sometimes. So,
he's not on your list right now. Are you adding him on?
I have him as a T20 right now.
Okay, so Matthew Fitzpatrick is a top 20.
Yeah, we'll add our bets once we finalize everything.
And then 3 other players that you have that I also share a connection with are going to be Daniel Berger, Victor Hovland, and Abraham Ancer. We'll talk about those players in a little bit, but just to recap, the players that you are targeting for top 8 each way, which means they either have to win or finish in the top 8. Those players are going to be Justin Thomas, Will Zalatoris, Paul Casey, Corey Connors, Matt Wallace, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Daniel Berger, Victor Hovland, and Abraham Ancer. Of those players listed, which are the ones you are taking in the top 20?
Willie Z, Casey, Fitz, and Wallace is T20 bets. But
so out of those 9 players that he has, 4 of them, in addition to taking top 8 each way, is going to be 4 players to finish in the top 20. So the 3 players that you have that I also share with are going to be Daniel Berger, Victor Hovland, Abraham Ancer. But I do want to tell you what I did. You have your little model and your gadgets that tell you what you want to look at. Last week, I kind of put too much emphasis on driving distance, and it kind of screwed me over. This week, I'm not doing that again. I don't care how long this course is. I want to know, are you a good iron player? And of course, that is Paspalum Greens. They aren't used a lot of courses. Like you already mentioned, it is found at the Puerto Rico Open. It's found at Mayakoba and Corrales Futacana, and also on the European Tour. I found that out at the Saudi International and the Abu Dhabi Championship.
The desert courses.
Yeah, so I started there. That is where I started. And then I looked at how the players do on Pete Dye tracks, then their recent form, and then I utilized 5 different set of stats, and it is strokes gained on the approach, strokes gained around the green, scrambling, greens, and regulation. And then since this course was here in 2012, McIlroy run that event in 2012. He shot 13 under. But the second place person, he shot 5 under. That is just a huge gap. It is largely unlikely to happen. But for that reason, because realistically, the winner should have been around 5-ish under, I'm also looking at bogey avoidance. So that brings us to the players that we share, and it is going to be Daniel Berger. I like him for a top 20 at plus 135. All of these players I already do have outrights on, but for the podcast purposes, I'm sticking to top 20s. It is plus 135 on Paspalum Greens. He does well. He took second at Puerto Rico Open in 2019. He took 23rd at Mayakoba in 2020. On Pete Dye courses, he does really well. He took 7th at the Players. He took 3rd at RBC Heritage, 9th at the Players in 2021. And then he took at Match Play and RBC this year. That was 18th and 13th. So those are top 20 finishes. And then recent form, he's coming off a 3rd place finish at Byron Nelson, which anybody could have done. Minus 100, but I mean, he's doing really well. So I definitely like him in addition to some of the players that you have. And if we're talking about iron play, he's 34th in strokes gained on the approach. He's 28th in strokes gained around the green, and he's 10th in greens in regulation and 6th in bogey avoidance. So those are the stats that I like for him. And then you agree because he's on your card. And then the other player that we agree to have on is Victor Hovland. And it's kind of a similar situation. On Paspalum Greens, he has won. He won the 2020 Puerto Rico Open, and then he won the 2020 Mayakoba Golf Classic presented by Unifin or whatever that is. But then on Pete Dye courses, he took 7th at the Players. He took 11th. That was in 2020. And then he took 11th at the Travelers last year as well. And then his recent form, he has back-to-back third place finishes at Valspar and at Wells Fargo, and he is in the green in every single category, including around the green, which has historically been his problem area, and he has gained strokes around the green in 3 straight tournaments. So that's a positive that I really like for him. He is 7th in strokes gained on the approach. He is 24th in greens in regulation. I like him. I think he has a legitimate chance to win this tournament.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like I think for Hovland, he just needs to neutralize losing strokes around the green. The putter has been coming back. Like I know he's been working on both of them quite a bit, but there's still glimpses of very poor around the green game.
Right.
If he just neutralizes some lost strokes there, he's definitely going to contend 100%.
His top 20 yards are plus 110. And then the third player that you and I both agree on is Abraham Ancer, because on Paspalum Greens, he took 12th at Mayakoba. He took 8th at Mayakoba in 2020, and then 8th at Mayakoba in 2019, but he has experience as the point. He also took 9th in 2017. On Pete Dye tracks, he has a 5th place at American Express and 2 top 20 finishes at Match Play and at RBC Heritage. And then in recent form, he took 2nd. He took 5th at the Valspar in early May, and then a week later, he took 2nd at the Wells Fargo Championship, gaining strokes in every single category, including around the green, and his putting was on fire for both tournaments. I mean, what's not to like about him? He's 12th in scrambling, he is 12th in greens and regulations, and he is 4th in bogey avoidance. So if he can continue with those green stats in the right direction, he can also definitely finish within the top 10, but I like him as a top 20 at plus 185.
Yeah, well, he's actually 1st in bogey avoidance if you just go back to the start of 2021. So that's even better. But yes, 2nd in good drives gained and 2nd in fairways gained in 2021 as well. The only thing I generally would worry a little bit about with Ancer is his 200 plus yard proximity is not good. He's right. 94th in the field. They're going to see a lot of that this week. Mm-hmm. So that and his around the green game, same thing with Hovland. Like they just need to neutralize the lost strokes there, and both will definitely contend. Right. Both of them can. Ancer definitely has win equity here. There's a lot of people in his range around like the 50 to 60 to 1 number that have a lot of win equity.
My long shot to win this tournament is going to be Emiliano Griot. I love him for a top 20 at plus 350. But this guy, you want to talk about who has experience on Paspalum Greens, it is definitely going to be Emiliano Griot. He has been playing Paspalum Greens since 2015. He has more experience than probably anybody on the course. And listen to these finishes that he has since 2015. 2nd, 10th, 9th, 15th, 41, 3rd, 21st, 8th, 11th, and 6th, including those last two. He took 11th at Puerto Rico Open this year in March, and then he took 6th at the Corrales Punta Cana also in March this year. And then on Pete Dye tracks, he took 2nd at RBC Heritage. And looking at his recent form, he's coming off a 14th place finish at Wells Fargo Championship. He's a little bit struggling off the tee, but his ball striking overall as well. His around the green is kind of off and on. His putting is off and on. But if it clicks all together, this is very similar to all of those courses, Corrales, Mayakoba. They're coastal courses, lots of wind. He's a great wind player. He does well. And then he's 13th on strokes gained on the approach. He's 3rd in greens in regulation and 3rd in bogey avoidance.
Yeah, I don't mind Griot. The ball striking, I think his around the green game and putting is probably just a little bit too bad, I guess, for me to commit to anything for Emiliano this week, but I can see it. I mean, one thing a takeaway from looking at results on Paspalum, the majority, and like 95% of those results, the top 60 players in the world wouldn't not have been in the field.
Right.
Like Corrales and Puerto Rico are both alternate events when WGCs are going on, and you know, the top 75 players in the world are always at the WGC. So
right.
I wouldn't look at finishing position at all on there. Maybe just look at
I'm looking for
data
experience.
specifically.
He's been there a lot, so he has the familiarity of the coastal, the wind, the putting.
Yeah. And, you know, OHL or Mayakoba is a little bit better. Generally, probably have 5 to 10 of the top 50 or so golfers in the world there. But
right.
My long shot this week that I bet would be in my boy Christian Bezuidenhout. Anytime he's in the field, he's an automatic bet. You know, he's won 3 golf tournaments and he's come second in 2. I have had him at an each way all 5 times. Other than probably Brooks and Tom Hoagie, I think Bezuidenhout is my most profitable player.
He wasn't mentioned in a card earlier, so we're going to leave him scrapped off. But my next player is going to be he's there. But my next player is going to be Thomas Pieters. This is going to be my pancake bet of the week. His top 20 is plus 650. And I don't know, I was kind of on him last week. I wanted to be on him last week. He shot even par. He didn't really do well, but he is a European guy. He did 15th at the Puerto Rico. He did 13th at Corrales. On Pete Dye tracks, he took 8th at the Zurich, though of course that is a team event. Looking at his recent form, got carried.
My boy Tom Lewis.
He missed the cut at the Byron Nelson. Like I said, he shot even par, but he is on the Euro Tour and he does have experience there. He took 8th. No, he took 41st on something. I don't know what he did, but he's a European player guy, and he shot 5 under at Byron Nelson, but he did gain strokes on his approach and tee to green, and he only lost strokes putting. So he is my pancake bet. I'm not putting a lot of value on this guy, but I like the European guys to do well this week, and he's one of the ones that I am looking at for a top 20 at plus 650. And you're nodding your head in all different types of ways.
I'm not with that. Last week with the Tour Junkies, well, we have this thing called the chalk bomb, and every week there's an article written, and you know, the person with generally the highest ownership on DFS that we think is like just going to bomb, we call it the chalk bomb. And so Thomas Pieters was my chalk bomb last week because like his ownership was ridiculously high for no reason. Like he literally has no form at all. Right. And just, you know, all of a sudden everyone was on and like, what is happening here? And
we see his finishes and it looks nice.
Of course he misses the cut. So it was good for
you can't blame anybody for missing the cut. It's hard to shoot 25 under.
So. But even if it was a different event, regardless of the bogeys, I still didn't see much form coming from Thomas Pieters, right. But
well, regardless, it is a pancake bet for a reason. This is a long shot to me. Plus 650 odds. It's a reason it's a long shot. So the players that I am looking for in the top 20 is going to be Daniel Berger, plus 135. Victor Hovland, top 20, plus 110. Abraham Answer, top 20, plus 185. Emiliano Griot, top 20, plus 350. And my pancake bet of the week, Thomas Pieters, top 20, plus 650. That's going to be a small amount. But he did take Saudi.
$1.
He did play at Saudi International where he took 10th, and then he took 13th in Qatar. So his European experience. He has European experience is what I'm saying. But those are going to be it for our plays. You can make sure to follow me on Twitter, Pamela M35. You can follow Anthony on Twitter at Charter to see his DFS breakdowns and exactly how he is allocating his top 8 each way bets. And then
we'll figure out the amounts and which ones I'm going to stay with and go once we post. Probably sometime tomorrow, just to make sure the wind's not going to, you know, at a coastal course, you never know with the wind. Right. You got to be up on those things.
But that does it for another PGA betting preview here on Stack of Stats.
Let's go.